welcome to Stupid Ideas from Bad Creative, Season 2, Episode 9. I am Slim, joined by Sid. Hello, Sid.
Hey, dude.
And we covered it on the last episode. We're talking about the New Generation era, which is a whole era of wrestling. Yay. Let's get into some names, I think. So, do you know who Vince McMahon is?
Problem.
Hulk Hogan.
Yes.
Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
Hunter Hearst Helmsley.
Yes.
Yes? Who is he?
Triple H.
Yes. Good. I wasn't sure if you'd pick up on that.
I'm gonna be a little concerned if I didn't.
Yeah. Shawn Michaels.
Yeah.
Bret the Hitman Hart.
Yes.
Yeah. Ric Flair.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it then. So, the New Generation era is a period of time between 1993 and 1997, which means that it's the era in between the Golden Era and the Attitude Era. This is known as one of the lowest points in WWE history due to many reasons that I'll get into. And I'll start by talking about why this era began, and that is the steroid trial. Hooray. Big round of applause. So, 1991, Hulk Hogan and a few other stars were made to testify that they purchased steroids from WWF physician Dr. Zahorian, who was being charged for illegally distributing steroids. 2 years later, in 1993, Vince gets indicted because of his connection to Zahorian, and the trial gets underway on the 7th of July, 1994. Vince is acquitted on July 23rd, and the trial brings in the wellness policy, which is still in use today. The steroid trial is significant because the 80s saw larger-than-life stars who were unnaturally large. So, with this trial, WWF tried to change their image and go, we don't have so many jacked people, and got rid of a whole bunch of their big stars, or pushed them down the card at least. So, yeah. So that meant that smaller guys like Bret Hart, Undertaker, Shawn, Razor Ramon, Diesel were,
I don't think you get to refer. I don't think you get to refer to Undertaker as smaller guys.
as in not, jacked guys.
Yeah, I get that.
Diesel's also like 7 foot tall.
Man's tall, but I guess naturally built.
Yeah.
So fucking Doritos.
Yeah, then people who are naturally the right size for what they should be, right? They're not unnaturally sized, like Hogan or Lex Luger or any of them. So, also in January of 1993, we get the first episode of Raw. So.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Next up on why the New Generation era sucked was, apart from the top guys, most of the rest of the time had stupid gimmicks like Repo Man. What did he do?
Come in chasing them for their debts.
Yeah, he would repossess their shit. Isaac Yankem DDS, we've covered him. Duke the Dumpster Drosy, we've also talked about him. And the Mountie. Can you guess what the Mountie was?
A bounty hunter?
No, he was a Mountie.
Pirate?
No.
He was.
Like Canadian police. A Mountie.
Mountie. Oh. He rode in on a horse?
Sometimes.
Yikes.
Yeah. There was obviously a lot more than that, but that's just a few examples. Another thing that didn't help was the WCW come along and signed a whole bunch of the guys that WWE got rid of, including Hogan. So that meant that WCW got a boost of popularity. And on top of that, general interest in wrestling as a whole was on the decline. And WWE storylines were not great. Mixed with the gimmicks meant that people who were watching were disappointed, and WCW was getting bigger. They introduced Nitro. They went head-to-head with Raw, and WCW started stealing fans from WWF. So, yeah.
as you can imagine.
Yeah. So the New Generation era just sucked, basically. It was a time where everything was shit, and WWE didn't help that. they
Yeah,
they
just
had a
looking
lot
at
of
pictures
issues.
like just looking at comparing your images of like Lex Luger and Undertaker, and I'm definitely seeing what you mean.
Yeah,
Just the different builds.
yeah. One of them looks
Um,
like he's been on steroids for half his life, and the other one looks like
yeah,
he's just been in the gym again.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. And I mean, yeah, like I get that having the steroid trial, taking on your big stars and all that does put you in a bad spot,
It really does.
but also having somebody called Repo Man on your roster doesn't help it.
Doesn't mean yeah, just because you're going through a hard time doesn't mean you need to start, having such bad writing.
Yeah, although with saying that, it is Vince McMahon.
Hmm,
So,
true.
what went wrong? Well, it's only 4 years. It seems a lot longer, but it is only 4 years. They got like they weren't ever going to get everything right. You can't expect
No,
you can't expect anybody to
no.
get every single thing right for 4 years. You just can't, unless you're Tolkien, maybe. But you know. Major things that they did wrong was they tried to push Lex Luger as the next Hulk Hogan, despite fans wanting Bret Hart. So once again, WWE not listening to their fans. Their storylines were crap. They had a Kiss My Foot match with Bret Hart and Jerry Lawler, so that didn't help. Plus, as we talked about last episode, the entire 1995 King of the Ring. Um,
Yeah.
and they had a lack of star power, which we've already talked about, and just couldn't do anything right. Is there anything you want to talk about with the New Generation era?
Um, yeah, look, from what I'm hearing, it's one of our episodes where there's a whole series of factors. I mean, which makes sense. We're talking about an era. You can't really just have one bad idea ruin an era.
Yeah,
It's very much a case of, and look, a drug scandal like that, that's not bad writing, that's not bad creative, that's just like,
it's life.
well, it's a sign of the times as well, I suppose. Prior to that time, doing something like, handing out all these steroids willy-nilly, no one would have batted an eyelid, but medical research was catching up and people were realizing that you can't just pump people full of steroids and get them fucking huge, because their hearts start exploding and their stuff doesn't go too right.
Yeah.
Which all you gotta do is one thing I did notice when looking at pictures of Lex Luger, if you look at him now, he's definitely not as good looking as he was back then.
He
Old man looks like he's folded in half.
he is about 50
Um,
years older than he was back then, but
yeah,
you know,
well, yes,
but you know, yeah, no, he looks horrible. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's now in a wheelchair. Like he's confined to a wheelchair now.
wouldn't be
But
surprised.
like, yeah, his look has drastically changed. Like if you look at Hulk Hogan back then and Hulk Hogan now, he's
Now still
still
looks disturbingly the same.
yeah, yeah, he does.
Eerily,
You know,
a bit of a ghost of his former self, but
yeah, like he might be a bit more flabby, but
yeah,
he's still sort of got that look to him
yeah.
where Luger does not.
No,
You
no,
can
you can see the shape of his face was the only way I sort of connected the two.
yeah
But really,
yeah
yeah,
no
no,
he
it's not
looks
great.
horrible. He
So
honestly
yeah,
looks horrible.
it's yeah, we can't blame the failures of this era entirely on the WWF.
We
Just
can't
yeah, and so that doctor going to trial, it was he was doing he was potentially ruining some of these wrestlers' lives by telling them that you can take all these and you'll be fine. Um, and then Vince obviously had his day in court as well because let's be honest, this doctor pumping these guys full of drugs wasn't just the doctor's idea. He someone was saying, "Hey, I need my stars bigger and
Yeah.
bigger and as big as you can get them." So look, there's all that.
I will say, Vince did win the trial.
Yeah,
Uh,
which you know, man's got
he's
a lot of money, good lawyers, and at the same time, he's not a doctor. So, you know, he can. It's all good and well of him to tell the doctor, "Hey, drug him, drug him, drug him," but it's also the doctor's responsibility to turn around and say, "No,
yeah,
I can't."
yeah,
Yeah. So there's that. But as we've touched on, while that plays a role, it doesn't change the fact that, as you've said, the storylines in this time not doing super well. We've got some just whack characters.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Like you said, you can't
it's
blame WWE for it entirely because you got the
mm,
whole steroid stuff, but you can't blame that
yeah,
entirely either because you've got all the other stuff.
you've got like some just genuinely bad stuff. Yeah, like if
Yeah,
they'd even if they'd pulled out some semi decent ideas or just normal stuff. I mean, look, yeah, they're attempting a rebranding and they really fumbled it.
yeah, yeah. So basically, I'll try and fix this, which obviously it's a 4 year
Yeah,
thing, so I can't fix all of it. But I
no,
can give a broad sort of a fix so that you know, hopefully it just isn't as bad as it was, on a
as I
whole.
said,
So,
as I said,
I mean, it's quite easy to say this, but you just do better storylines and create new stars by giving them breakout performances against the established big names that we still have. That's how
yeah,
you fix it. You
yeah,
create new stars, you don't give them names like Isaac Yankem to begin with and make them a dentist. You don't do all that shit, and let's say you do just have Kane. We'll just use that for an example. You then put him up against the Undertaker like they did, and you have him beating the Undertaker. Being this scary monster. There was a point. I can't remember what year it was, but Kane showed up about 6 times on the one show. He would
yeah,
just come like the lights would just go off, or turn to red, and his music would hit, the flames would start, and Kane would come out and just destroy whoever was in the ring, turn around and leave. And then a couple of matches later,
yeah.
he'd come out and do the same thing. You know, that got him over because he's just a monster who just shows up whenever he wants and does whatever he wants. That makes him a
So,
star.
storylines and characters like that are what we needed in this time. Leaning into the sort of gimmicky comedy side of things during a period where you're not doing super well is just like a huge risk. Like trying to draw people in with comedy.
Yeah, bad comedy.
Um, and that's it, like self-depreciating comedy
Yeah,
is is never gonna go super well at a time when you're not doing super well.
yeah, and I mean, also when you look at things, Owen Hart's considered one of the best stars ever, at least
Mm.
best workers. Now, I don't know if you know much about Owen Hart, but he died in 1999. He was coming in for his entrance and fell from the roof and died. Um, the show continued. Don't worry, the show continued. This was in the middle of the card. Don't worry about it. You know, we might wind up talking about that at some point because we
Yeah.
might have to. But yeah, right. He was coming in for his entrance. He was going to zip line down. The harness
Mhm.
broke and he fell and landed chest first on the top turnbuckle and died.
Oh,
Yeah,
yep.
so very fun. But he was considered one of the best because he was a really good worker. He was Bret Hart's brother. But he would put on constantly great matches.
Hmm.
He didn't have that much of a gimmick, really, but he was just really good at wrestling.
That's it.
Like Bret Hart, you know?
Yeah.
There might be a thing there. British Bulldog as well was quite big, but he was also big. Um, but those guys sort of put on good matches and that got them over. You look at somebody
Mm.
like Kane, whose gimmick got him over. Undertaker got him over. Basically, well, you need to be giving these people good gimmicks, even if they're not good gimmicks, letting them have good matches to prove that
Mm.
they're worth watching.
Yeah.
And WWE did neither of them, and almost went under due to WCW going, well, the guys that you got rid of because steroids, we'll have them.
Mm.
And then WCW did a lot of other things that they did right. We've covered what they did wrong. But yeah, like at that time, they were sort of starting to do everything right,
Yeah.
and then they just got a little bit stupid with it. But, yeah. So how does this help WWE? Well, hopefully it keeps
Oh.
fans, which
Yeah.
or at least it should make new fans, maybe keep viewers. Additional stars mean that you have additional opportunities for merch, matches, intrigue, which all that should mean more money because with more intrigue, gains more fans, more money, more merch, more money, more stars, more everything, more money, higher ticket sales, more money, WWE, more money, um, you know, yeah, that's basically it for the new generation era. Um,
Just.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything you need to add?
It's a tricky one, but I'm glad that we talked about it. It's sort of a complex phase, but you can't sort of, I guess, yeah, we can't talk about ideas without talking about the roughest period in history.
Yeah, and also
So,
as somebody who doesn't know anything about wrestling, I felt that it was necessary to bring this up for you
yeah,
so that you could understand, because I think everybody
the
sort of gets the 80s. Everybody has an idea of what the 80s was like with Hogan on top. Then the Attitude Era, everybody sort of knows because it's got The Rock and Austin.
but there's sort of this disconnect where it's sort of like, how did we get from here to here, and
Exactly.
why?
Yeah. And,
Um,
um, we don't need to really talk about how it transitioned, really, but
no.
we might touch on it at some point. But yeah, you now know. So the 80s was this, early to mid 90s was this. Then the Attitude Era. Then what you probably don't know about is the Ruthless Aggression Era, which is where Cena and Orton and Lesnar and all them come into it.
We really haven't touched on a lot of that
No, but
yet.
we will. I felt that covering this part of the 90s was necessary, and what better way of doing it than just talking about the entirety of it because it was entirely bad. So,
Yeah.
yeah. That is it for this episode. Like, share, subscribe, channel, hit notification bell, follow Facebook, Twitch, and X. Links those are in the description. Let me know what you thought of the episode in the comments. Let me know if I missed anything, because it was a very big subject, and if you would, or how you would change things in the new generation era to make it better. Let me know all that in the comment section down below. And other than that, thanks for watching. Sid, say goodbye.
Catch you later.
And good night.